Journey Church family. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays. Happy New Year. So for our 3 questions, our first one was...
Our first new tradition is we come to the Enchanted Valley Tree Farm every year to get our tree, which we're here on location right now.
Yes. And it's a lot of fun. There's 50-foot slides and giant hamster wheels for the kids to play on. And we always have a really good time. We're doing it really late this year, but that's okay.
Yeah. And for moving us forward, God moved me into a new position, and also we are getting a remodel done on our house, which we'd been planning for a while. So a lot of big projects going on in our lives this year.
Gut rehabs.
Yes.
For our guts.
And
Number 3.
For number 3 for our challenges, it was also the job, because it was an unexpected job change, one that's worked out really well for us, but in the short term the process was very stressful, and but we came out on the other end with the Lord's help.
Yay,
So,
Jesus.
Thank you, and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Happy New Year 2022.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Hey, Journey Church, Pastor Corey here.
And I'm driving. This is Brendan.
There's Pastor Brendan. Just wanted to share with you a few of our things that we've gone through this year. So the first question of the year is, what tradition did we enjoy celebrating this year? And back home at my mom's, the family all gets together for Thanksgiving. The night before Thanksgiving, we all share a meal from a local Italian restaurant and eat their wonderful homemade ravioli. Well, this summer they announced that they were going to be going out of business, and we were really concerned it was up for sale. But they kind of pivoted and decided to do takeout only. So this year, the night before Thanksgiving,
We had Bona Casa live. Went and did a pickup, and we all enjoyed fellowshipping around the table eating Bona Casa.
second question: how did God move our family forward in 2021? Brendan?
So in 2021, God was extremely faithful to us. He provided for us. He watched over us, and He took care of us. And His mercies endure us forever. And so I just see God's hand in all things in life and trust in Him. And we can put our trust in a lot of things, but if we put our trust in the Lord God, He will get us through anything.
So for us personally, that included new jobs, new place of living for Landon, health for all of us, and just so many other things.
Going through COVID, going through the losses that we had in life.
So the third that Brendan kind of jumped into there was the challenge that we faced in 2021, and I would have to say that our family's biggest challenge was the passing of my dad in February.
That was the biggest challenge for us as a family, and we continue to work through those changes and through the loss in our lives, and it's been a challenge, and it's going to be a challenge for us for a little while.
But one of the things I'm really most thankful for, even in that, is God's timing. Brendan and both of the kids were up there with my mom, so she didn't have to find my dad and be completely alone, and I'm super grateful for that. So even in the difficulties, even in the circumstances of challenging moments, we have still continued to see that God is faithful to us, and that His love endures forever, as Brendan already said. So thank you, Journey Church. We love you, and we're looking forward to hearing from the rest of you what God has done in 2021.
God bless.
Hey Jordan, what is a tradition that you enjoyed this year?
Tradition I liked this year was I started running the lake loop around Geneva Lake in Lake Geneva. I like that it's a little different than Madison, different terrain, and very different scenery. So tradition I liked and started for the first time this year is running the lake loop around Lake Geneva.
Nice. A tradition that I've really been enjoying the last couple years is we got a boat about 2 years ago, and we started boat camping on one of the lakes here. And so this past summer we did that a couple times, and I just really enjoy being out on the lake, getting to wake up, and just like the peace and quiet and serene of the lake.
How do you think God moved our family forward this year?
Well, it kind of starts with the past few years. I just really hadn't enjoyed my job very much. So we took some time as a family to kind of basically take a step for me to get a new job. And so God really just moved us forward and opened an opportunity and a job where I'm working from home. I just feel so much more a sense of purpose, like in using the gifts that God gave me in that job. So he really moved us forward by providing that job this year. What challenged you this past year?
I think the biggest challenge I've had this past year was getting back into running. I used to run competitively in high school and college, and it was something I really enjoyed, but I took a pretty significant break, and it's taken me a long time to get back into that hobby. And it's really more than a hobby. It's a way that, that I use to stay healthy and stay in shape. And some ways I did that was I joined a running club, and it's been a good way for me to see the city and be part of our city.
We started a new tradition at bedtime with the boys about something that we did with my JCG is that we started doing low high surprise, and I carried that tradition on with the boys when they're going to bed, and I asked them what their low of the day was, what their high of the day was, and something that surprised them about that day.
2020 was an interesting year, and we spent a lot of time indoors, and we spent a lot of time isolated by ourselves. And then in 2021, we started to move forward and try and look at just we had not been doing very much in 2020, so we tried to look better at our health and try to make better habits with our health and try and get to the bottom of some of those things that cropped up. Just not doing a lot in 2020, and we've made a little bit of progress. Still trying to move forward with that.
Something challenging that we worked through was how to connect with family safely. And we were able to work around that and making plans with my side of the family, with Kyle's side of the family, and we made a regular time to be with them and connect with them. Whether it was outdoors and with masks or without masks, we had to work through that with everybody's comfort level.
And then we just can cut that first little bit of space out.
Sure.
So first question is, what is one fun tradition you established or enjoyed this year? So I think for me, one of the fun traditions that I got to enjoy a lot this year was something that Dustin and I affectionately call Sweet Sundays. Sometimes just because we're there prepping early, we forget to just remember how sweet it is to be in community, how sweet it is to just spend those Sundays really worshiping Jesus. It is still a fun time for us to be at those worship services and just to be there present with everyone. But I think that there's this lack of celebration that sometimes comes along when you're doing it very repetitively. And so Dustin and I, after every single Sunday church service, would go and we would grab cupcakes from Daisy's Cafe, or we would go and get donuts from Victory Coffee down the street. Just anything that we could find, sometimes Culver's custard, anything that was just sweet and really, really tasty and enjoyable, because we wanted to just remember and celebrate how sweet it is to be in community. So that was the tradition that I really, really enjoyed this past year.
Yeah, me too. I mean, on top of that as well, the new tradition that we formed alongside that on every Wednesday night, giving you a glimpse into the nerdy world that I inhabit all the time, and us starting to play in a D&D campaign together with each other as players alongside each other, and you learning all of these bits and pieces of weird nerd errata and things of that ilk, and just the fun that we have there, and getting to unabashedly just go, yeah, some people think this is a little weird, and this is a little out there, but just enjoying our time, having fun, spending it in fellowship with friends.
Yeah, the pure routine of just being able to anticipate Wednesdays as this really, really fun time that we could role play as our characters and be nerdy, that was really, really fun. Yeah. So that definitely, I definitely want to echo that as a tradition that I also enjoyed as well. Cool. Question number 2 is, Journey's word for 2021 was forward. Let's celebrate how he moved moved us forward. How did you see God moving you and your family forward in 2021? So I definitely think that God moved me forward in a lot of really, really challenging ways, which is exciting. But I think the biggest one that I can think of that I have just been like so grateful for is the fact that I moved forward into my job at Lighthouse Christian School. I originally had gotten hired as like a behavioral specialist in a 4th grade classroom that needed some additional assistance. But then the Lord had bigger plans apparently. And there was a vacancy for the 6th grade teacher position. And Pastor Tia, the pastor and principal of Lighthouse Christian School, just kind of approached me. She was like, hey, like, do you want to teach 6th grade? And I was like, sure, I can teach 6th grade, having no prior teaching experience other than like maybe a couple of like some tutoring things like over the summers when I was in college. Like, it was a really, really big step, but it definitely was this step forward into this like era of confidence and obedience that the Lord had for me that I like didn't know I was capable of doing, which is wild. And so, you know, that radical obedience of the Lord in that time of deciding like, okay, I'm going to follow him by stepping into this position was definitely a way that he moved me forward in my life. And I'm so grateful for that risk that I got to take through that job, because it was probably the biggest life shift that I've ever made in my whole life. So it was really, really great. And I'm definitely grateful for the way that the Lord moved my career and my vocation forward through that job.
Yeah. I mean, I would say for me, I think everybody has had a very tough, I mean, to put it in the most like simplistic terms ever, a very tough couple of years. And so I think for me, amidst a bunch of difficult family stuff, being able to start a relationship with Nicole, ask her to marry me, and just grow alongside each other in that and learn a lot of what it means to be a partnership, to be not just partnered and like, hey, we're going to go through life together, but we're going to go through it in a way that's honoring to the Lord and that sets him at the center of things. I'm really proud of myself, but I'm really proud of us and the changes and the growth that we're making there. And obviously still a process, still figuring it out. But, yeah, I think that's what it is for me.
Yeah. All right. That third question then is, what is something challenging that you overcame in this past year? For me, I would say that the most challenging thing was just overcoming that sort of feeling of like, for lack of a better term, just like that sort of like sloth feeling where it's like, okay, like there's nowhere for me to be, there's nothing for me to do. You know, the pandemic really just like forced everyone to slow down and rethink where they were at in life and just rethink, you know, what was important and what busyness meant, and how we sort of as a culture worship that idea of busyness and productivity. But I think that to a degree it like came to my detriment, right? So overcoming that feeling of like, well, there's nothing for me to do that's going to change the situation that I'm in. So I'm just going to like sit and like kind of put my head in the sand and like just wait for it all to blow over. Which definitely wasn't something that was honoring to the Lord or honoring to, you know, the word that he had for me personally. In the same way that the journey has a word for the year, like I had a word for the year for myself, led to, and one of them was risk. And so, you know, in my mind, I was like, oh, like risk in the sense of like deciding to start my licensing process through Foursquare or something like that. But the Lord had so many other opportunities for me to sacrifice a lot in order to do the work of his kingdom. And so I think that all those wonderful opportunities came, and I was just like, okay, Lord, I have to overcome this feeling of just deciding to stay put where I am. I have to overcome this, and like I can't do this without your help. So overcoming that feeling of needing to just like wait for someone to come along. And so I started dating Dustin after a bit, took that risk. I decided to give up a job that I'd already been in for 2 years that was like very cozy and comfy. And I could have had it for the rest of my life had I wanted to, but I knew it wasn't obeying God. So left that job, went to my Lighthouse job, Like I said before, deciding to start licensing, deciding to, just all together, like, move forward with this relationship, get engaged after dating for 10 months. Like, all of those things, like, felt very risky to me, but, like, they had so much reward in them, and it just showed how the Lord was the one that helped me to overcome that fear of being risky, or the fear of doing things that were sacrificial for the kingdom at the expense of my own comfort. So I think that was the biggest thing that I overcame, definitely with the help of the Lord during 2021.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of things that probably resonate with plenty of people.
Yeah.
I guess I jumped the gun a little bit and talked a little bit about this in the answer to the previous question, but man, I mean, obviously there's been a lot of challenge in discovering what it means to be a couple, in a sense that's not just like, well, I'm my own individual person and you're your own individual person, and we just, if our lives intertwine during that, great. Yeah. Having intentionality with that and purpose, and creating and cultivating, and doing what we can to make that grow. I think that's a big part of challenge that we overcame this year, as far as just like learning what that means and putting in the effort for it and being willing to have difficult conversations.
Yeah.
And I mean, now, take the full year in review and everything, and just COVID's still not over. There's still plenty of hardship there. And so I think I'm also proud of the way that we've both handled, like you said, kind of striking out into new phases of life beyond just engagement with each other, but also in our professional fields. And I think I've done a lot of growing there, and a lot of things that are helpful, obviously, in a career development, but in ways that also contribute to me being a more like assertive, but not in the way that's just like, well, I'm just going to state whatever I want all the time, but assertive and gaining confidence, I guess would be the word, in my own competency, beyond just like the work that I do, but as a person. And I think that touches on it for me.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, we were really glad to sort of give our input on these questions. We love you very, very much, Journey family, and we hope that you have a really, really wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Okay, what is one fun tradition you established or enjoyed this year? This year, we started doing birthday parties for Gideon on Halloween night. So that's a tradition we wanted to start once we knew when his birthday was. And we had all kinds of friends come over, and we just partied on Halloween the day before his birthday. And then we didn't have to go out in the cold and go trick-or-treating. Okay, ready, Chris? What is one way our family moved forward?
With this little guy, he was born in April. So,
cool.
The number of children multiplied. So that's how we moved forward.
What was something challenging you overcame?
Well, we got a house, which is great because we were really struggling in an apartment with kids and a pregnant woman and a dog on the second floor. It was rough. So, overcame that. We got a house, and we're blessed for that.
Yeah, woohoo!
Hey, Journey Church, Pastor Stephen and Jessica here. We want to say Merry Christmas. We put this end of the year video together with my wife and I, and then all of our leaders, and we're so excited to be finishing the year off here this way on this last Sunday of the year. So we wanted to just highlight a couple things that happened this year. One of the traditions we enjoyed this year is something that we do every Christmas season now. It's our third year doing it, is going to Kalahari and spending some time there and enjoying time with our family and then some friends. One of the things that we did this year to really highlight the word for the year, and for the Journey Church, the word for the year was forward. So one of the things we did to move forward this year, move forward in our faith, forward with our family, is I chose to become bivocational, which is a huge deal, to be bivocational pastor in the city. and I'm getting my I'm going to get my teaching license, and I'm going to go be a high school or middle school teacher, and I'm going to be a pastor. And so that was when we moved forward this year. And Jessica actually moved forward, and you got a new job, which was awesome. So she works for Century 21 Real Estate now, and that's been such a great place for her to work. So it was really good. Now, the thing we moved forward this year was also, with the third question, was one of our challenges. And one of the challenging things for this year was making those changes, going from full-time paid pastor at the Journey to part-time, and then moving into a career in teaching was a big decision, was a big change. And we saw the Lord really be faithful as we prayed about that and sought wisdom. God has been really faithful to provide opportunities and actually start grad school to get my teaching license this January. So I'm very excited. And that's a big challenge this past year. And for my wife, the challenge was moving from one company to a whole new company, the company that we loved and she was doing really well at, but we wanted something that was local. And so that was a big challenge that we went through. And of course, as parents, I think one of the biggest challenges we had this year was, again, it was a joy, but also a challenge, was this was our first year having a kid in every level of school. So AJ is 7 and he's in elementary, and then CJ is in middle school as a 7th grader. And then PJ, our oldest, just turned 15 and he's in high school. So that was quite an adjustment for us to go all 3 grades or all 3 schools. And yet it's been amazing to see our kids grow up and to see our kids grow up in this community here in Madison and at the Journey Church. So we love you, church. Merry Christmas. Have a happy New Year. And we will see you on January 2nd. Pastor K is going to be preaching. I'm going to be leading worship. And we can't wait to see all of you in the new year.